Hello and welcome back to What's Cooking with me, Chef Gordon Blimey. And today we're going to be making success, and I have the recipe for success. So in order to make success, you're going to need the following ingredients. So here I've got some dedication. You can get this in most supermarkets, but you might want to make your own. And we've also got some perseverance. And again, I grew this myself. Now it is quite difficult to grow perseverance, but once it's started, you'll find that it comes back again and again and again, and you really will have more than enough for this recipe and many more, because it's a very versatile ingredient. You can use perseverance in all kinds of things. Now, you're also going to need some risk. However, we are only going to be needing a pinch of risk. So, if you don't have much, don't worry about it. You can just add a tiny pinch later on. We're also going to need a good helping of hard work. Now, sometimes this is quite hard to come by, but you'll find that hard work is going to make all the difference to this recipe. And your final ingredient is a large dollop of failure, because in all success there are multiple failures. And we've got a ladle here to add a nice dollop of failure into our mixture. But before we do anything, we do need to wash our hands and to wipe down all of our surfaces. So first off, we're going to need a large mixing bowl, and into that bowl I'm going to add my dedication. Now this is pre-chopped, and if you are going to chop your own, then make sure you get an adult to help you, because knives can be very sharp. So I've added those to the bowl, and to that I'm going to add a generous handful of perseverance. So that goes in right there, and then in order to combine those two, we're going to get our hands dirty. So the key to success is not being afraid to get your hands dirty. Obviously, we're going to be adding some hard work as we go later on. So make sure that your dedication and perseverance are combined, just using your hands to mix it all together. And once that is combined, you can then add one little pinch of risk. Now, I always keep some risk in my store cupboard, because you never know when it might come in handy. So just one tiny pinch of risk going in right there. And that's really going to lift all of those flavours of dedication and perseverance, combining with risk. It's going to make a really delicious meal. So now that we have our bowl of dedication, perseverance and risk, we're going to be adding in our hard work. Now this can be a little bit sticky, so you may need to get a spoon to help it out of the bowl. So just add that into the mixture as we go, and then give it a stir with the spoon, not with the hands this time, because it will stick to you. But as it combines with those lovely ingredients in there already, it does start to loosen up. Now, as you can see, this has combined beautifully, and we're not going to add our fresh dollop of failure just yet, because this needs to go into the fridge overnight so that all of those flavours of risk and perseverance and hard work and dedication can all mix together, combine to create a beautiful, flavourful dish. And then tomorrow we will add our fresh ingredients. Obviously, we're not going to be doing that now. We haven't got time for that. So I've got one that I prepared earlier. So this is one that I made yesterday. As you can see, it's beautifully combined. It's really come together, and overnight in the fridge, all of those ingredients have mixed together, and we are ready to add in a large dollop of failure. Here it is. Now this is a very special batch of failure, and you might be tempted to get rid of all of your failures, but they're a very, very important part of every success. So I'm going to be quite generous with this failure. We're going to add a large ladleful there, and I am actually going to add another ladle. Now this recipe does only call for one ladle of failure, but I like to add in just a little bit more. I think it gives it a really nice edge to the dish. And now we're going to take our spoon again and really combine all of that failure. You might find that the mixture, after being in the fridge overnight, is a little bit tough to work, but really work it with the spoon and mix in all of that failure. Then I think it is just about ready to go into the pan. Now spoon your mixture into a nice large pan onto the hob on a nice high heat. Now you don't actually need to add anything to the pan because it's a very rich mix for this recipe of success. So just keep on stirring it around the pan for around about 10 to 15 minutes, or until you see the perseverance start to brown a little bit. And as you can see, this is looking absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to taste this success. So this looks just about ready. As you can see, the perseverance is nicely browned, and that is a good sign that this dish is ready to serve. So I'm just going to spoon it out onto a plate. There we go. This is looking absolutely sensational, and I can't wait to dig in. And there we have it, a delicious, nutritious serving, and it really is the sweet smell of success. This tastes incredible. You can really taste the flavours of that perseverance coming through, and just as you get used to that, in comes the dedication, and finally that little hint of risk in there. Now the failure hasn't overwhelmed the dish at all. It's actually a very important part of this recipe, and it really adds to the success and makes it taste all that sweeter. Delicious. Hello and welcome to What's Cooking with me, Chef Gordon Blimey, and today we're going to be making some healthy relationships. So in order to make this fantastic dish, you're going to need some listening. Now this used to be available in every supermarket, but listening has become more and more scarce, but you can still find it in some specialised supermarkets. So do look out for it, or maybe you could even grow your own at home. We're also going to need some openness, but we are just going to be taking the juice from that openness. So make sure that you've got a colander or something you can strain it through, because we are just going to be using the juice. Make sure you keep the body of that openness, because you can always use it in another dish. We're also going to be using 25 grams of honesty. So make sure you've got a grater, because we are going to be grating this 25 gram chunk of honesty into our dish. And it really does make all of the difference, because without it, those healthy relationships can start to become a little bit bitter. But really, it's the honesty that's really going to lift them and make them nice and bright and flavourful. So you're also going to need a good dash of acceptance. And that is the key to all healthy relationship recipes, because without acceptance, it's not a true, traditional, healthy relationship recipe. So make sure you've got all of those in stock, and then you can make this delicious, nutritious, healthy relationship. So before we do anything, we do need to wash our hands and wipe down our surfaces. Fantastic. Now that we've got our hands nice and clean and our surfaces wiped down, we can begin making a healthy relationship. So we're going to take our listening and we're going to add it into a large mixing bowl. Just dump it all in there, nice and together. Now, I did mention that we are only going to be using the juice of our openness, but please don't throw out the body of it, because you can use it again. So just get yourself a colander and then gently pour that into the colander. Let it strain through into your mixing bowl and just get out all of that juice. That's really going to make all the difference in our healthy relationship. Make sure it's got lots of openness in there, so nothing is hidden, nothing is lied about. There we go. And now we're going to add our 25 gram chunk of honesty, and no healthy relationship is without honesty. So we're going to take our large chunk, and we are going to need a grater. So we're just going to grate that against the grater on the finest setting. Use the finest side, and we'll get some really fine honesty in there. Be really careful with your fingers as we get closer and closer to the grater, because it is very sharp. In fact, I would probably recommend getting an adult to do this for you. Make sure that you get all of that delicious honesty out of the grater, because we don't want to waste any of it. Now, we're just going to cover that with a bit of cling film or a tea towel, and we're going to leave it to prove for around about 20 minutes. Now, obviously, we don't have time for that. So, wouldn't you know it, I've actually prepared one earlier. And as you can see, it's risen, it's almost doubled in size, and that's a sign that the honesty is really doing its work with the openness and with that listening. It's going to be nice and light and fluffy and a really, really great relationship. Now, we're going to empty that out onto our surface, and then we are going to be folding in our acceptance. So we're just going to scoop it out of the bowl, add our acceptance onto the risen mixture of listening, the openness juice and the honesty, and just start to fold it in. It will take a bit of time, but we're going to be making some really, really lovely layers to this relationship, and it's the folding that's really going to create those layers. So fold it over, make sure that acceptance is there, and then give it another knead, and then fold it over one more time, and then make sure you're kneading it and kneading it and kneading it. And now that that acceptance has been folded in, to our healthy relationship, we are going to need to get a rolling pin to roll it out onto the surface before we put it onto a baking sheet and into the oven. Now, at this point, you might want to add a sprinkling of good humour. That's going to stop our relationship from sticking to the surface, and it's also going to make the recipe nice and light. So feel free to sprinkle some humour liberally over your surface, and then get your rolling pin and really start to work it and roll it nice and thinly. You want it to be the thickness of around about a pound coin, because it will rise in the oven. So once you have your raw healthy relationship flattened out to around about the thickness of a pound coin, then spread it out onto the baking sheet like I have done here. And it's at this point, as a little optional extra, you could even add a little bit more humour. But that's going to go into the oven at 200 degrees for around about 30 minutes, just to make sure that it's nice and ready. So that's been 30 minutes. This kitchen is smelling delicious, and I'm going to use this tea towel to get out our healthy relationship from the oven, because it is going to be hot, fresh from the oven. Now this looks absolutely perfect, as you can tell. So we're going to slice this up nicely, and we're going to be able to share these healthy relationships with people in our family, with our friends, and maybe that special someone. So now that you know the ingredients that you need for a healthy relationship, go forth and make your very own. You won't regret it. Hello and welcome to What's Cooking with me, Chef Gordon Blimey. And today we're going to be making a good night's sleep. So in order to make a good night's sleep, you're going to need the following ingredients. I've got 100 grams here of sleep pattern, and this is just a regular sleep pattern. You can get a broken sleep pattern, but I wouldn't recommend using it for this recipe. So 100 grams of regular sleep pattern, and we've also got 150 grams of a Restful Environment. 150 grams of a Restful Environment, and I'll talk about what that is comprised of a little bit later on. You're also going to need 2 teaspoons of daily exercise, and we're going to be adding that into the mix a little bit later. Another ingredient you're going to need is 110 grams of thoughts, and I'm sure you've got plenty of thoughts to go around, so I'm sure that you can spare 110 grams. And then finally, the last thing is a dash of water, just to bring it all together. But before we start making our good night's sleep, we're going to need to wash our hands. And I'm sure you all know that after the past year, we know why that's so important. But as well as washing our hands, we're also going to be wiping down our surfaces. Now that our hands are nice and clean, we can start making our good night's sleep. So we're going to start off with this 100 grams of regular sleeping pattern. And what I mean by that is going to bed at around about the same time and getting up at the same time, because your body gets used to that rhythm. So even at a weekend, if you can try to go to bed at the same time that you do during the week, and then also get up at the same time and make the most of the day. So we're going to add that regular sleeping pattern into our large mixing bowl. And once we've got that regular sleeping pattern into our bowl, 100 grams of it, we're going to be adding 150 grams of a restful environment. So that's making sure that the place where you're going to be sleeping is nice and cool, nice and dark, and nice and quiet. So we'll add that into the mix right now. And now when you've got those two in the bowl together, you're going to need to get a large spoon and give them a good stir just to make sure that they are combined. Just keep on stirring, trust the process, they will eventually come together. It might look like it's going terribly wrong, but just keep on going until they're nice and combined. Now, that has come together absolutely beautifully. So we're going to add to that 110 grams of thoughts. Now, we are going to need a sieve for this because sometimes thoughts can keep us awake at night and we want to sieve out all of those negative thoughts. So anything bad that might have happened throughout the day, we're going to sieve those out. So you pour it into the sieve and just give it a gentle shake over a separate bowl. So we just keep on shaking, and then afterwards you'll find that all the bad thoughts haven't been able to get through, so they can be thrown in the bin. And then we're going to add those sifted good thoughts into our mixture of a good night's sleep, and hopefully it'll give us some good dreams. So now that we've added those good thoughts to our mixture, we need to make sure that they are combined. So just give it another stir just to make sure it is all mixed in. Because next we're going to be adding 2 teaspoons of exercise. Now this is useful if it happens during the day, so that at bedtime it means you are nice and tired. So let's just scoop out 1 teaspoon there and we'll just pop that in. And a 2nd teaspoon. Now this is quite thick, so it might take a little bit of time to get off the spoon, and you may even use a clean finger to scoop it off into the bowl. Perfect. That's looking great. Now that that's in there, again, just 1 little mix to stir in those 2 teaspoons of daily exercise. And finally, our final ingredient is some water, just a little drop, because I know that you might be tempted to maybe put some sugary drinks into this, but if you add sugary drinks to your good night's sleep, it's going to completely spoil. It will be disgusting. So make sure you've got your water, give it a couple of drops, stay nice and hydrated, and then give it 1 final stir. That is looking sensational, and I have to tell you, it's smelling pretty good too. So what we're going to do now is we need to get a baking sheet like this, and we're going to spoon that mixture out onto the baking sheet, and we're going to put it into the oven at 200 degrees for 20 minutes, and that should be nice and ready for a good night's sleep. So we're just spooning it out onto the baking sheet and spreading it out with a spoon, nice and evenly. So gently take your baking sheet with our raw good night sleep mix, and we're going to place that into the oven. There we go. And we will see how that turns out later on. Well, I have to tell you, this kitchen is smelling amazing because our good night's sleep is ready to come out of the oven. So make sure that you use an oven glove. If you haven't got an oven glove, you might be able to use a tea towel because it is going to be piping hot. That is looking and smelling delish. And there we have it, a simple, delicious nutritious good night's sleep made with some very easy to get ingredients. Try it yourself.